here to my side, Marshall. We do record this. It will be available sometime in the next couple of days, and we'll make sure that we get the word out to all of you that the recording is available. So it will be available via YouTube once I get the chance to put it up there. We have some great folks, as I mentioned, Allyson Jones-Brimmer. Allyson is a graduate of South Jeff School District. She was one of my first guests ever on the Homegrown show, our radio show that we do. She is now the Director of Operations for the U.S. Beet Sugar Association. Before that, she worked for the Animal Agriculture Alliance, also down in Washington, D.C. And she started out after graduating from college, Cornell grad, I think, Allyson, let's see, Cornell grad. I have to read the fine print here. And so Allyson graduated from Cornell and went into Farm Credit East before going to the Animal Agriculture Alliance. Our next guest is Ashley Willits. Ashley is also, let's see, Ashley is a Lewis County native. Her family raised dairy heifers and bore goats. She is a graduate of Tarleton State University, and Ashley, you can correct me in a second if I said that wrong. She was a national FFA officer, and she's currently the Deputy Director of External and Intergovernmental Affairs at the United States Department of Agriculture. So we're very excited to have Ashley on with us also. And third is Casey Porter. Casey's from Rodman, New York. She's the fourth generation of Porterdale Dairy Farm. She's been very passionate about cows in the dairy industry for her entire life. She's been in 4-H, FFA, and was our dairy princess here in Jefferson County. After graduating from Cornell, Casey returned to the home farm where she currently serves as herd person. So Marshall, if you would, I'm going to ask you to bring all of our guests up on screen. And I'd also like to welcome, as Marshall's doing that, I would also like to welcome our Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik. A little bit of a surprise today. We're really excited to have our Congresswoman from the 21st District, who's doing a great job representing agriculture down there in Washington, D.C., joining us. And Congresswoman, I understand that you would like to talk to these young women about their role in agriculture a little bit.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Jay. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you perfect.
Great. I'm so excited to participate briefly in today's event and welcome our amazing women in agriculture, Ashley, Casey, and Allyson. I've had the opportunity to meet with many of you and to talk to you about all the great work that you're doing in agriculture. I also want to thank Jefferson County Economic Development for their commitment to supporting our agricultural interests, all of our local farms and ag businesses in Jefferson County and beyond. It is truly the backbone of our North Country economy, and particularly this year, this unprecedented year as we've faced the COVID pandemic, we've very much worked with our local farms and our local ag advocacy organizations to make sure that the support that is needed for our farms that we delivered. Two highlights I want to promote today is the coronavirus food assistance program. That was incredibly important to make sure that we were addressing our ag products and getting them to the people that need them, particularly since there are so many nutritional needs at this difficult time. In addition, we worked very closely with all of our farm credits and Farm Bureau to make sure that our farms were eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program as well as the EIDL. These were the small business assistance programs that were so important for our local farms. And then the last issue, which is incredibly important, is the Farmers to Families Food Box Program. That has also been extraordinarily important to provide our ag products, healthy products to those in need right now. So we are going to continue to work on a bipartisan basis to support our farms. But as I've talked to Casey and others over the past 6 years that I've served in Congress, we know that our educational programs, our cooperative extension programs are so incredibly important to nurture that next generation of our agricultural leaders. So I've been able to participate in our county fairs, get to know many of our dairy princesses and our FFA leaders across the district. So my commitment will always be to our farms, but I just wanted to be here to highlight the success of Ashley, Casey, and Allyson and thank them for their commitment to staying and continuing to grow our agricultural sector in so many ways, whether you're working at USDA, previously worked at Farm Credit, or your tremendous work for advocacy associations, or running your family's farm, as is Casey's situation. So thanks for the opportunity to participate, Jay, and I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Well, I was hoping you might have a tough question for them, but I've got lots of them, so
I'm sure you do.
We'll put them on the hot seat here. But thank you very much, Congresswoman, for joining us today. We really appreciate that. So thank you very much. And Marshall, we're going to, if the Congresswoman doesn't mind, we're going to take your camera and microphone down so you can be a guest just like everybody else.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the work you're doing in Washington. All right, so that was a nice little surprise to have our Congresswoman joining us. And so now we've got lots of questions, and I want to get started with those questions. The first one, and it's sort of an odd question to start out with, but I think it sets the tone for the whole program. You know, when I called each of you and asked you to do this, I knew you were each very busy people, and I was curious. Why did you say yes? What made you say yes to doing this? And Marshall, if you could, I'll have all three of you take your microphones off mute, please. Okay, there you go. Very good. Casey, I'll start with you. Why did you agree to do this? What is your purpose for being here today?
I was hoping to, you said the purpose of the panel would be to encourage young people to be interested in agriculture. And, you know, I was the high schooler coming up through and not sure what I wanted to do with my life, and you know, this is the path that I've chosen, and I just wanted to be an encouragement to other young people thinking about what they wanted to do with their life. So
county as well. Just the supportive agriculture community there, had a lot of mentors, had a lot of really great people invest in me. So just really excited for all the work that you all do to continue that Jefferson County agriculture and North Country agriculture can remain strong, and there can be a network of agriculturists to talk with and bounce ideas off of each other. So I was just excited to be part of that community and be part of that network. And sometimes being in DC, home feels too far away.
And Allyson, how about you, ma'am? Why did you say yes to this?
I echo what Casey and Ashley said. You know, I love home. Northern New York is still home to me, and want to see people who are interested in agriculture to be able to go into the industry and have thriving careers. And I know I had a lot of people who helped me get to this point in my life. So if I can be that help to someone else, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, and I purposely saved you for the third person to ask that question of, because of the three of you, your background wasn't necessarily, I don't believe, if I remember correctly, a strong agricultural background when you went into South Jeff Middle School, was it?
That's correct. I showed horses when I was younger, so that was kind of my connection to agriculture. Got involved in 4-H to be able to show at the county fair, and then I say it just kind of spiraled out of control from there. So seeing all that 4-H had to offer in the different areas other than horses, and joining FFA in middle school and then becoming really involved throughout high school was really what set my career path in motion, and where I am today is because of that choice to join FFA and get started. I obviously grew up in rural northern New York. I have to remind people that when I'm down here introducing myself in DC, that there is a whole state attached to that city, and was very familiar, had a lot of neighbors that were farming, driving by farms every day, but I didn't really know what was going on in the fields or in the barns until I got more involved in 4-H and FFA in middle school and high school. And once I was there, I was pretty much hooked and knew that I loved working with farmers, for farmers, and being able to share what goes on inside the barns and the fields. That's so important to get food on all of our plates.
Did you, Allyson, did you have a different career path in mind prior to joining FFA?
Not really that I can recall. I'm sure at one point I wanted to be a veterinarian as the favorite little kid career goal, but I don't think I thought too much about where I was going in the future in that point really until I got more involved in FFA.
And Casey, you grew up on a very well-known dairy farm here in the area. The Porter family's fantastic, and their reputation as dairy farmers is par excellence. I don't know if I said that right. I'm not much in French, but how did you, or why did you start, doing what you were doing? Are you going in the direction that you wanted to go in, first of all?
Yes, absolutely. My story is different and similar to Allyson's. I grew up on my family's farm and grew up going to the Jefferson County Fair every year, showing a couple of my Jersey calves, and always really enjoyed that. And I was always involved in 4-H. And when I was in middle school, we kind of took all the dairy kids and threw them into one club together and said, here, let's start a dairy club. And as Allyson said, that's kind of when it spiraled out of control. And I just started joining any and every dairy focused program that I could get my hands on. And, FFA definitely played a role in my decision to focus in agriculture, but it just didn't have quite as much dairy related programming as 4-H did, and other programs through Cornell Cooperative Extension, like locally the Dairy Prospects program, which is a more dairy career focused program, and then later on the statewide program, Junior Dairy Leaders. We're all very instrumental in my decision to come home to the family farm.
Well, you said the Cornell Cooperative Extension. What was it again? That program?
There were two. So locally between Jefferson and Lewis counties, they call it the Dairy Prospects program for early high school age kids, and then for later high school age kids, there's the Junior Dairy Leader program, which is statewide through Pro Dairy and Cooperative Extension.
So those programs have helped you, in addition to FFA and the Dairy Princess program. Those programs have been instrumental in helping you further into this career that you're in.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, you're down there in Washington, D.C., and you're working for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Is this where you intended to end up?
I never thought that this would be where I ended up, and I certainly am not, halfway even through my career yet, so I'm sure there'll be some twists and turns that I haven't expected and won't expect. And I actually remember in college, one of my college professors took me to DC, and we went to USDA, and there's a podium downstairs where we do a lot of events, and I stood and took a picture behind it, and she was like, someday you'll work here, you'll stand and speak behind that podium. And I was like, no, I won't, like, that's not true. And then, last year I was able to speak at an event that we hosted here at USDA as an employee. And so it was just a really cool moment to see that picture, and then to that I got to work here now. But, you know, similar to Casey and Allyson, was involved in FFA in high school. I was involved in Dairy Club with Casey. That's how we became friends. But also pretty involved with FFA on the national level, and FFA has a partnership with USDA. And so got an internship at USDA toward the end of college and was able to come back full time. And so for me, ending up here was just a series of networking and meeting people and kind of unexpected twists and turns, but certainly happy where I'm at and really enjoy the opportunity to work in DC and work more in the policy side of things, but still be connected to agriculture.
And so I want to back up. I want to keep that thought you said about internships, but I want to back up and talk about when you were on the family farm. You raised heifers and boar goats, right?
Yeah, so I use the term farm lightly. So definitely had, you know, experience in agriculture growing up. Both my parents are agriculture teachers. So my dad at Lowville and my mom at Carthage. And I think they just wanted us to have the experience of raising animals. So we had a few brown Swiss heifers that we showed at the Jefferson County Fair, and then some boar goats that we also showed, and you know, the occasional pigs and beef cattle just for us. But you know, definitely had that experience in agriculture. But what I found myself drawn to more was the communication side. So, you know, at the county fairs, when people come up and ask you all the questions that maybe are obvious to us and to the people that bring their animals, but not obvious to them, that's where I really thrived and enjoyed having those conversations.
Well, and that's, I mean, having the agricultural industry be able to tell its story better than we've been doing is so critical. So very good. Want to catch you because I know you have to depart a little bit early on us because the Secretary of Agriculture is calling your name. Internships, you mentioned internships, and when the three of us met earlier in the week to sort of discuss this conversation that we're having today, I think you or somebody mentioned internships as being so important. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, you know, for me, my internship is the reason that I'm here now. My boss in my internship in college is actually my boss now. And so that's kind of a cool full circle story. But I did a couple of internships before I did my internship at USDA. And I think the most important thing is kind of finding out what you really do enjoy and what you don't enjoy. So I think the internships that I did at the beginning of college looked a lot different than the internships I did at the end of college, because I was able to start to out some of the things that I really enjoyed and some of the things that I wanted to work on. And it's just a really great networking opportunity. You never know who you're going to meet or the experiences you'll have. So for me, they've definitely helped to kind of align the trajectory of my career and where I'm going now. But they've also just provided a really great network of people that I'm pretty thankful to call mentors and be able to rely on, you know, as I navigate my way through all of this.
So would that be a message that you would leave for all of the people watching today and whoever might watch the video moving forward, the importance of offering those internship opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold. So if you're an employer or a farm or a business or whatever you might be open to those opportunities. And sometimes internships are paid and sometimes they're not. And sometimes interns have really cool jobs and sometimes interns shred the paper, and that's okay too. But it's all about just providing those experiences and providing people opportunities to network within the company, to, you know, shadow people. Some of the coolest projects I did weren't as an intern, weren't projects that I took the lead on, but just people letting me back wallet in a meeting and listen to what they were doing. Or I interned at Farm Credit and got to go on some of the farm visits with them. And so just kind of those folks taking me under their wing and just giving me a opportunity to see what they do every day. And I would say if you're a student and you're looking at those internships, take advantage of opportunities, even of opportunities that you didn't think you'd be interested in. You know, certainly not every day is going to be the best, and you're not going to walk in the first day and be the CEO, but you may have opportunities and you may meet people that are really pivotal moments in your career, even if you don't think that they're big moments at that point in time.
Okay, thank you very much. Casey, when we were talking the other day, we talked about internships and obstacles. And if I remember correctly, and maybe I've got this wrong, you indicated that you might have run into an obstacle. You had wanted to work at another farm or something like that, and there was something that happened. So I'll ask the question the way I've got it worded on my cheat sheet here in front of me is, you know, as you advance through preparing for your career, what was the greatest obstacle you encountered? Was it the intern thing, the working on the other farm thing, or was it something totally different?
So I went all through college kind of planning on taking a 3 to 5 year, I don't think break is the right word, but go somewhere else, work on another farm or in agribusiness somewhere for 3 to 5 years before I came home to my family farm. And it seemed to be a lot of what my friends and peers were doing through college. And I remember getting to the fall of my spring and realizing I've been away for 4 whole years and I miss home. So, you know, it was a different decision because I had just spent 5 years really planning on going somewhere else and having to change that plan and kind of justify why I wanted to do that, and being able to make that work with my family. You want to get into working with family every day, let me know. But that's a whole big topic for another day. But absolutely, it ended up just being the right choice for me. And if anything, I would encourage everyone to figure out what situation works best for you, because coming home to the family farm may not have been the right decision for some of my friends right at school. And you know, you just got to figure that out and communicate with your family and your advisors and, you know, your FFA teachers and people like that, your trusted advisors around. So
Okay. Allyson, what is there anything in your career so far? What was the greatest obstacle that you've encountered so far in your career path?
I think one of the most challenging times for me was right at college graduation. I graduated in January and had been an agricultural education major, so could have gone into teaching, but wasn't sure if that was quite the right fit for me. And I ended up graduating without a job lined up. So I was working as a substitute teacher, but didn't have anything, you know, permanent, full-time in place. And that was a really big challenge. It felt a lot like failure. It wasn't, you know, what every person envisions happening when they come right out of college. So definitely a challenging time for me, but luckily was able to find a good fit in a first job at Farm Credit East and really be able to learn a lot there and have a lot of great colleagues to work with and a lot of great farmers throughout the North Country to work with. So it all worked out in the end, but definitely a couple of months there where it was a struggle and felt like I was failing to put my college education to use in something that was a good fit for me. So definitely encourage anyone listening, any students, that there's not one straight line path to get to where you want to go. And sometimes it takes some changes, side steps, back steps, whatever that might look like. But like Casey said, it's not going to look the same for every person.
For the three of you, just as a follow-up question, and again, I'll remind our audience, and I better make sure, I'll remind our audience, if you have a question that you would like to submit, you can submit those at any time. Just click on the Q&A button. It should be at the bottom of your screen, I believe, and that will pop up. I will see the question, and I'd be happy to ask on your behalf. So please don't be shy. I know each of these ladies very well, and they can handle tough questions, I'm sure. But I want to follow up on what each of you just said. Is there something that the agencies, the organizations, people like myself could have done to help you get through that process you went through, that educational process, starting your career? Is there a piece that we missed doing that would have been helpful for you? And whoever, if there is something, or if there's not, I'll leave it to the three of you. Any response to that? Okay, and that's fine. That was you know, off the cuff question. And if you can't think of anything, I guess that's a good thing for all of us to consider. So I want to go back to FFA because as I talked to the three of you the other evening, one of the things that really, you know, I never had much experience with FFA early in my agricultural career until I came here to Jefferson County. FFA is very strong in the North Country, and I was psyched to learn about it and learn what it offered. So as we were talking, even though I knew about FFA, what hit me was the importance of FFA to each of you. Do you think that FFA is that critical thread, or is there something else? Based on your experience and the experience of others that you saw go through FFA with you, how critical is FFA to an agricultural career?
I'm happy to take this one first. This is probably my last question. Unfortunately, I have a work commitment to go to next. But yeah, Jay, I think that for me personally, FFA was a huge part of, you know, my path and in my experience. With that being said, I think there's tons of other youth organizations and outlets for folks to plug into that can be just as beneficial. And I'm sure Casey will talk a little bit more about that later. But I think, you know, just in general, the most important thing, I think when you're looking to figure out where to go next or looking for your career, you know, whether it's plugging into FFA as a high schooler and taking advantage of those opportunities there, or it's finding another organization or another club that aligns with what your interests are and really starting to build your network at that young age in college, because I think those connections really help you as you go throughout your career. And so for me, FFA was pretty critical in my career path because, you know, being an FFA in high school allowed me to serve in college as a national officer, which allowed me to get my internship. And for me, the really great thing that FFA has done is it's furthered a community for me. You know, earlier we talked about obstacles, and I think one of my biggest obstacles moving to DC is that I really, for all intents and purposes, didn't know a ton of people here and didn't have a ton of friends. I knew Allyson was here and running into her at a couple of happy hours was great, but you know, didn't have a community. And I think very quickly I found other people that had also been involved in FFA that were also in the ag community, and those folks are some of my best friends now. And so I think, you know, just plugging into those organizations and having that network can help you drive your career. But I think more importantly, it can give you that community and that network, which I think is something that we forget is also an integral part of being successful in a career.
Excellent. Casey, would you like to add to that? And Ashley, do you have to go, Ashley?
I do, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I would love to hear Casey and Allyson's thoughts, but really just appreciate you having me on today.
All right, thank you very much for doing this, Ashley. It's very appreciated. Have fun and good luck with the rest of your career. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Casey, would you like to add in? And we just had a question come in, and I'll just note to the person that submitted the question. My next question on the list follows that, so we'll get your question in just a second. Casey, would you like to follow up on that question about FFA and its importance to agricultural careers? And you certainly had a very storied career in participating in the Dairy Princess program.
Yes. So, like I said earlier, just personally, FFA was a little bit less instrumental for me growing up, just because there was more dairy program, which aligned closer with my interests within 4-H and some other extension programs and the Dairy Princess program. So, I mean, frankly, to answer your question, no, I don't think FFA is the common thread, but I do think that youth agricultural organizations are that common thread, and having opportunities for kids, sorry, there's a fly. Having opportunities for kids that have an interest in agriculture to really dig into and foster that interest. I mean, I met people in 4-H that I later got to know in FFA and in the Dairy Princess program, ended up going to college with them, and you know, they're now my colleagues that I call and I say, hey, are you having questions with or problems with your cows too? I mean, it's I think those youth programs are really instrumental to fostering that next generation of agriculturalists and bringing them back into agriculture for their career.
So to make sure I understood your response, FFA may not be the common or the thread, but it's part of having youth organizations that offer agricultural programming that then can help a young person like yourself or like you were go through and learn and network and so on. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
And Allyson, the way you and I met was through FFA. You became very involved in FFA. What would be your response to that question about the importance of FFA or other organizations? Because you weren't in agriculture to speak of before you started FFA.
Yeah, so I think that the different variety of different ways that those youth programs are kind of administered is really important and makes each one of them critical in different situations. So as Casey mentioned, she was actively seeking out dairy programming and wanted to learn more, wanted to get more involved. But someone who's not actively seeking out those opportunities or doesn't already have that interest might not know that there are opportunities for them in 4-H or other cooperative extension programs. Whereas FFA and agriculture courses are typically administered through public schools. So you might get a student who stumbles upon an agriculture course and stumbles upon FFA and finds out that they really love it and really want to pursue learning more about the industry and pursuing a career. And that's kind of more my story. I, probably didn't really have a great reason for joining FFA, didn't think I was going to go into agriculture for a career, but happened to join it and love what I was doing and wanted to get more and more involved. So I think having those different delivery methods where people who are already interested can come learn more in some programs and other programs that are just there and available. Unfortunately, we don't have an FFA chapter and an agriculture program at every school in the North Country or the US, like would be really ideal, but they're maybe better positioned to get to students who don't have a background already in agriculture for them to come and learn more and see what it's all about.
All right, excellent. And, it's the message I got from both of you and from Ashley before she left on that question was, it's important to offer the extra programming for agriculture, whether it's Dairy Princess, whether it's 4-H, whether it's the dairy competitions or the agricultural competitions through cooperative extension, and especially FFA. I've been so impressed with the FFA programs that I've seen. It's great, but they're all so important to offer. So that's the message that I just took from the three of you. So I'm going to get to the question that was submitted, and this is changing gears quite a bit. So hang on. Have you faced any challenges as women in the traditionally male career field of agribusiness? And if so, how did you deal with it? And we talked about this the other night. You brought it up. One of you brought it up. What are those challenges and how did you deal with them? Who'd like to go first?
I can kick it off.
Okay.
I think, unfortunately, being someone who's different from the normal is not always welcome in every space. And I think agriculture is a very male-dominated field. Obviously, people often come from rural backgrounds, have a lot of the same beliefs, whether that's religion or race or sexual orientation. A lot of agriculture has looked very similar for a long time, and that makes it challenging to feel welcome in certain situations. I've been very fortunate that I've always felt welcome welcomed by my colleagues and the people that I was working with. But I think sometimes working with farmers, I've interacted with farmers on farm, at trade shows, at different industry events. And unfortunately, there are sometimes jokes or comments that don't make it a welcoming community for everyone. So I think all of us who are working in the industry need to be really mindful of that we need to go out of our way to be welcoming to people who are different. We need people to eat our products, so we need to have conversations and be welcoming to people who aren't involved in agriculture, aren't coming from the same background as them, because we want to feed them and we want to be able to answer their questions, and we're not going to be able to market our products if we're not willing to talk to people that are different from us. So I think things are moving in the right direction. There's more and more women involved in agriculture, more and more programs that are being put out to help people who don't traditionally come from agricultural backgrounds or aren't traditionally farm owners or farm business people get involved and get their start in the industry. So there's more and more of that, but those of us that are in the industry now, I think we should continue to work on trying our best to be welcoming. And those that are interested in coming into the industry, don't be afraid to reach out and find a mentor who can help. Find people who might meet for lunch or coffee or whatever it might be to answer your questions, learn about their career paths, to figure out what they did to take on challenges. There are a lot of women who are interested in helping other women at the start of their career, and it can be tough. It can definitely be tough, but I think it's well worth it. And there's ways to overcome any obstacles that are put in front of us.
Expand on the question. Allyson certainly went to some of the degree I was going to ask the question, but I'm just going to put it out there. Based on your involvement in agriculture, what have you seen or experienced as far as bias, such as gender, sexual orientation, racial bias, political bias? What have you seen or experienced, and how have you dealt with it, and how do we deal with it as an industry?
So there are actually two instances really that I can think of where there was bias. And so when I was first first decided that I was going to go home, I was excited. People are asking me what I've chosen, and I say I'm going to go home. And a lot of them, and it's small, but a lot of them assumed that I'd come home and work with calves. It tends to be traditionally, you know, if there's a girl that's coming home, they tend to be more nurturing. So a lot of them tend to go straight to the calf barn. And I had a good handful of people asking me, just kind of assuming that's what I was going to do. And I'd say, no, like I'm tend to find calves kind of slang and obnoxious. I would much rather be working with the lactating herd. And, you know, it took me a little bit to realize, until maybe a year ago, that that is bias, and that, you know, I didn't notice that. In another instance, like you said earlier, I'm the 4th generation to come home to my family's farm, and I actually have 2 older brothers, neither of which who currently work on the family farm, and that's fantastic that they're following their career path. But I get a lot of people, when I say that, say, oh, that's surprising. You'd think the boys would want to come right home to the family farm, and, you know, and it wasn't until and it took me about 5 seconds to think, well, I could be offended by this and harbor it and tell this person off. And then I realized, like, no, I need to use that to work harder and educate people that just because the boys have kind of traditionally been the ones to come home to the farm, you know, I love it too, and girls can do it too. And, you know, this is a very traditional, age-old industry. So if anything, I want to encourage other women going into agriculture to not use any comments you might get or hear to anger you, but to use them to educate other people and to use them to fuel you to be a good role model for other women coming into agriculture, because we're a community and we need each other. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you know, I will say, as I've been doing this now for 20 years, I have been amazed and excited and thrilled at the number of young women who have come up through the high school programs and so on that I see going into agriculture. And it's not like you said, where they're just going to be the calf person or, you know, whatever the traditional stereotypical role might be. It's all aspects of agriculture, whether it's being down in Washington, D.C., rubbing elbows with a whole bunch of people and you're the voice of agriculture down there, or whether you're a dairy princess turned into a dairy farmer and you're rubbing elbows up here as that representative of agriculture. So the 3 of you, even though we lost Ashley, the 3 of you are so critical to the future of agriculture. It's extremely appreciated what you're doing. So thank you very much. And we just got a response from Catherine Canzaniero. I'll mention Catherine's name. Inspiring responses on that topic. Thank you. So your messages are great. And again, I'll remind folks, you know, don't hesitate to submit questions. We've got just shy of 15 minutes left. So don't hesitate. The Q&A feature right down there at the bottom. Okay, so let's see. Where did I leave off? I sort of got myself. Let's talk about the future in this time we have left. That was another part of our conversation that I really enjoyed the other night. And I was a little bit impressed at, you know, at what you were talking about. So let's talk about the future. 10 years from now, Casey, we're going to start with you. What does dairy farming look like to you? And maybe it's 20 years out, whatever you want to make it be, but what does the future of dairy farming look like to you?
You know, I think dairy farming and agriculture as a whole is going to see a lot more technology incorporated into it, with the upcoming elections and everything. You know, very worried about immigration policy and labor policy, and I'm just thinking about where our workforce is going to come from, and it's
Is that a, and I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Is that a big issue for the dairy industry, the labor force?
absolutely, especially when people want to go on vacation and take sick days, and maybe you're sacrificing some of your days off to cover for them. But
Are we making it more difficult here in New York State?
absolutely, I think so. Sorry, that was a quick answer. But you know, towards the
level of confidence you have in that response. What should we be doing in New York State to not make it more difficult for dairy farming when it comes to the labor issue?
Yep. You know, at the beginning of the month, I was sitting in on the labor board, wage board hearings, and saw a lot of dairy farmers advocating to not decrease the maximum amount of time that you can pay until you have to pay overtime, that 60-hour mark. Past 60 hours a week, farmers, and they've just recently made it required that farmers pay their employees time and a half after 60 hours. So I really think that will be, if that limit of 60 hours gets decreased to 50, possibly even 40 at some point, I really think that'll be detrimental to the dairy industry, and not only just the dairy industry, all agricultural industry in New York State. That's my personal feelings on the subject. I'm not trying to push any agendas here. But.
No, this information is important for folks to hear from you. You're the dairy farmer, and it's important for folks to hear this firsthand versus what they think might be the case. And maybe people will disagree with you. That's fine. But we need to hear from the dairy farm community as to what they think. So let's go past that particular issue, though, Casey. Do you see that there's opportunity for dairy farming in the future?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this, as a young person, if you're looking for a job, you will always find a job in agriculture, in the dairy industry. And it doesn't have to just be milking cows. There's finance involved, there's nutrition work, there's biology. It's all very interesting and widespread. You just have to look for it and ask questions and do internships like we were saying earlier. It might not always be, like Allyson said, you might not always have the very glamorous job for your first one, but if you keep working and asking questions, like I said, and continuing to educate yourself, into college and outside of college, whether you choose that path or not is critical in my opinion as well.
Allyson, and thank you, Casey. Allyson, how about you? What does the future of agriculture look like for you? What do you see as far as opportunities and challenges like Casey just shared with us?
I would agree that the future of agriculture is very high tech. We're going to see creative ways to get around some of the challenges and issues that the industry is facing today. So perfect example in dairy, you're having trouble with the labor force to get people to milk your cows. Why not use a robot? So I think we're going to see more and more of that type of creativity and that type of innovation through technology, whether it's on the crop side or animal care or ideas that we haven't even thought of yet. I think we're going to see pretty fast progress and changes in agriculture for food and in energy as well, and ways to both feed and fuel our population. In addition to everything looking a lot more high tech, I think that opens up opportunities for more people who aren't from an agricultural background to have opportunities and interest in the industry. So someone who's in a very science-oriented career path might not think about agriculture as an opportunity for them, but it really is. And being able to get to those people who are outside the industry but have skills and knowledge that could help the industry is one opportunity that we have to pull new people into the industry. And then on the other side of technology, I think some of the kind of things that can't be replaced by technology are going to become even more and more important. The communication skills, being willing to talk to people who eat, or doing international development so that we can continue to have markets outside of the United States for our products, and be able to get those jobs done, that negotiation that's needed, or whatever people skills that might be needed in the future to continue growing the agriculture industry and the opportunity that those who are in the industry have.
Okay. No, thank you. Great insight and great information. We just got a question, and I want to make sure I give you enough time to answer this because it's a really good question. Pay equality has been an issue in the news on many industrial fronts. Do you feel the compensation for you as a woman is equal or fair compared to your male counterparts in the industry? Who wants to try that one first?
I can jump in. I've always worked for a business or organization entity, I guess, and I felt like I've had really great bosses and colleagues through each of the roles that I've been in, and I do not feel like I've personally been unfairly compensated for the work that I've been doing, which is really great. But I know people, know friends and other people I've worked with throughout my career that have been unfairly compensated because they didn't come from the same background as someone else who was maybe working in a similar role as them. So I think it really takes advocating for yourself. It's so hard when you first start out to know what the salary for a certain job should be or what the benefits for certain jobs should be, but there are ways to research it. So if you're able to access any of that information, and some people are really private about that information, but some people are willing to talk about it. So don't be afraid to ask questions to make sure you're getting treated fairly, because I think sometimes you don't even realize you're being treated unfairly because everything's kept so secretive on the compensation front. So don't be afraid to ask questions, push it. Again, get some help with negotiation to be able to make sure you are getting the fair treatment.
Thank you. Casey, how about you? What's your response to that question?
I think Allyson covered everything. I mean, I feel the same way. I've had the same experience. Haven't necessarily experienced that myself, but I know people who have. And same thing she said, ask questions, do your homework. Another thing they always told us at school was go somewhere else and get an offer for a job and see what they are willing to pay you, see what you're really worth, and you might have some bargaining power with that as well. So
no, great responses, and that is an issue out there. And I think what I heard from both of you was be your own advocate, do your research, come in and make it clear, hey, this is the situation. And, it's a difficult one. We've got just a couple minutes left. Is there something we've missed that you had burning at the tip of your tongue that you really wanted to, Jay, I really wanted to say this and you missed the damn question? Is there something I've missed?
I don't think there's anything I've missed that I really wanted to say. I guess I can just give a little bit of a wrap up. I think that the future of women in agriculture have a bright future. And it's really important that we are all welcoming and inclusive of people who have different backgrounds. And as long as we continue to make spaces that are welcoming to new people and encourage them, we will have an even brighter future. And to those students or people who are early in their career who are listening, it can be tough. There are going to be obstacles, roadblocks, and challenges, but really encourage you to seek out mentorship, seek out people who will help you, will answer your questions. And I know that hard work and dedication go a long way in this industry. So there is room for everyone to be involved.
Thank you. Casey, any parting comments here?
Really just echoing everything Allyson just said. She stole my fire. Just really trying to be an encouragement to young people with any sort of interest in agriculture to follow that and really dig in. And there's always going to be room for more people. And I also want to be an encouragement to those of us who have benefited from youth programming or, other similar things to continue to be involved, because you just don't know if you're going to be that person to a kid looking up to that says, hey, I want to look into what they do, or, you could inspire who knows how many kids. So,
well, and I'll wrap this up by saying I've had the opportunity to watch both of you since you were a lot younger, and you have inspired me as an older adult. You have inspired me, and Ashley too, have inspired me with your abilities, what you have accomplished. And looking at the chat that's coming in, the questions that are coming in, Beth Meyer, awesome session. Thanks, ladies. Kim Morrow, great job, ladies. Thank you for sharing your stories. I just want to let folks know that the Jefferson County Agricultural Development Council, that's my think tank that helps guide me on our programs that we do here at Jefferson County Economic Development. This was their idea. They wanted a program on women in agriculture. And the minute they suggested it, these three ladies were the ones that came to mind. I wanted them to share their stories and tell us about their career paths, the challenges and the opportunities, because I think they've got a great story and they are the future of agriculture. So Casey, Allyson, and Ashley, wherever Ashley might be at the moment, thank you very much. Very appreciated.
thank you.
Thank you. Happy to do it and glad you thought of us. Definitely an honor.
Right at the top of my head. So, all right, folks, don't forget, in October, we have a great program coming up. We're going to focus on plant-based meat substitutes. It's going to be a very interesting conversation, and also plant-based beverages. So I won't use that word dairy in the same sentence. So anyways, it's going to be a great program. You can go to our website, agricultureevents.com. That's agricultureevents.com. Get out there and enjoy this great fall weather. Well, except down in Washington, D.C., they're getting rain today. And thank you very much for joining us, ladies. Have a great day. Thank you very much.